My name is Megan Cyril, and I'm a third grade teacher at Broadway Elementary in LD West. In my classroom, we use Sanford Harmony, Second Step, and Inner Explorer. And having these SEL programs gives my students a language that they can use to express themselves and their feelings, strategies for problem solving, and ways to build positive peer relationships in the classroom. My students are able to consider multiple perspectives and have perseverance, and they engage in productive struggle. For example, when we do math problem solving, we remind each other to take a deep breath before we start. And if one way doesn't work, we can always try another strategy. And this has helped my students to be more positive about math and to have a growth mindset about their learning. It's been really important to have professional development on SEL so that we as teachers are engaging in research-based strategies that support our students' academic achievement, as well as their social and emotional well-being. And being part of the SEL cadre has shown me how easy it is and how necessary it is to integrate the SEL competencies throughout the curriculum.
The reason that SEL is important is because while social and emotional learning is most familiar as compartmentalized programs separate from academics, the truth is all learning is social and emotional. The skills that teachers prioritize all influence how students think, see themselves, and interact with content and with others. The idea of SEL is to teach kids rather than the standards in order for them to thrive. This creates and supports a more equitable education for all. The following are some of the ways I and others can support new and better ways for students to learn around SEL. 1, building students' sense of identity and confidence in their ability to learn, overcoming challenges and influence the world around them. 2, helping students identify, describe, and regulate their emotional responses. 3, promoting the cognitive regulation skills that are critical to decision-making and problem-solving. And 4, fostering students' social skills, including teamwork and sharing, and their ability to establish and repair relationships. And lastly, equipping students to become informed and involved citizens.
Integrating social emotional learning into my classroom has been so helpful for me as a teacher, returning to the classroom during this intense moment in the pandemic that I think we all need time and space to process. You would think that students need like pure content teaching all the time, but when we integrate activities that promote development in these areas like self-management, growth mindset, and relationship building, they learn skills that promote their success in all their classes. These activities give me a positive talking point to bring up in conversation with parents and other adults, because often we're so focused on deficit-based conversations, especially when collaborating with and for our highest need students. But if we know what motivates a kid and where they want to grow as a person, it helps the conversation be more positive and enjoyable. So for me, it makes the day more varied and interesting. And even as an adult, I am learning these practices that help me to reflect and act in ways that are more helpful for my own growth. I hope you all give some activities a try, and I hope you experience the benefits as well.
My name is Marlene Mabra, and I am the primary promise math teacher at Huntington Drive Elementary in Local District East. One of my responsibilities is to support my school in infusing social emotional learning into math instruction with the ultimate goal of building growth mindset and self-efficacy in our struggling mathematicians, which is the population of students that I work with. We want all of our students to see themselves as mathematicians and as being capable of doing hard things. As educators, we know that when teachers create a socially and emotionally supportive learning environment, there is a positive impact on student attitudes, on behaviors, and on academic performance, which carries on throughout the student's academic career. And what I really want to do is set these kids up for success in math when it gets a little more challenging. I think that there's a natural and direct correlation between the math practice standards and the SEL competencies. When I look at the math practice standards, they call on students to do a lot of things such as solving real world problems through collaboration with peers, critiquing arguments, justifying their reasoning, and most importantly, to persevere when things get difficult. And this is where I'm able to leverage the connections between the math practices and the SEL competencies.
I'm Monica Vieira. I teach at Perchie Avenue Science Technology Magnet School in District South. I'm a veteran teacher with 32 years of teaching experience. I've had the privilege of supporting students in Title I schools for my entire career. Throughout my career, I have learned that meeting students' social-emotional needs affects their academic success. For example, the students at my school struggle with peer relations on the playground. If we are to empower our students to make meaningful contributions to the world as adults, we will need to address their social awareness and emotional needs now. My school utilizes Second Step, Sanford Harmony, and restorative justice to meet self-management and relationship-building needs. But it can't end there. My colleagues and I note that some students don't attend school regularly. When we ask why, we're often met with, "School is boring," "This is too hard," or "I don't like it." We as educators need to change this deficit dialogue. It is of utmost importance to motivate and engage students academically and emotionally. We need to incorporate technology, as well as incorporating growth mindset and self-efficacy opportunities for individualized instruction that motivate and engage the whole child to close the achievement gaps. We can do this through the integration of culturally responsive pedagogy and SEL in our unit and lesson plans.
My name is Dr. Robert Nelly, and I would like to speak with you about how social emotional learning has transformed my teaching practice and how SEL can impact your teaching practice too. SEL is reflective, relevant, responsive, and relieving. Engaging in social emotional learning has provided me with opportunities to reflect upon my classroom practices and be attentive to portraying positive and uplifting messages for my students. As such, SEL is both relevant and responsive to the needs of my students, whether they be in the classroom or at home in a hybrid learning format. Transition to incorporating social emotional learning strategies and practices, however, need not take years. It can begin with simple changes such as indicating and including daily feelings check-ins with students, as well as providing exit tickets for students to reflect on what they have learned, and while also empowering students to not only request but proffer the type of supports they believe that they want or need in the classroom to succeed. My integration of social emotional learning has taken me on a wonderful journey and has provided me with numerous opportunities that I never thought imaginable when I was a first-year teacher.
Hello, my name is Delisa Alejandre, and I am the history teacher for 7th and 8th grade at Katherine Johnson STEM Academy. I am here to discuss with you how SEL integration supports the teaching of history and other social science classes because it shifts the learning environment to more collective approach. Every class is different, and it is imperative to create their own classroom culture and norms to best support their learning experience. For example, each class starts with a mood meter check-in, and scholars listen to one another, at times providing coping mechanisms or strategies to one another, an indication of self-efficacy and social awareness. And scholars should be able to communicate the skills that they are displaying, asserting intention with each decision they make. Socio-emotional learning supports scholars in expressing their concerns, frustrations, and questions of historical events by having small and large group dialogue. The scholars are practicing growth mindset and social awareness, and I will be integrating a lot of the model behavior that was displayed by our delightful mentors of the SEL cadre. I appreciate the grace and empathy given during challenging times, the amount of communication and encouragement given throughout the meetings, and flexibility. They were very intentional with the structure and time given for us to be successful in fully grasping the importance of SEL integration, and I am happy to have shared a space with a community of caring and thoughtful individuals. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janelle Allen, and I'm a second and third grade Autism Core Curriculum Special Education teacher at Perchie Avenue Elementary in Local District South. I teach and reinforce social emotional strategies throughout the day to foster students' learning and development. My students have an exasperated need for support in developing language, social, and emotional mindset and behaviors. This need was made greater during the pandemic when students had less social interaction. Students with autism often lack these abilities, so it is an essential component of the teaching and learning in my classroom. I utilize Second Step, Sanford Harmony, and Inner Explorer to help my students manage their anxiety that creates barriers to their emotional growth and academic learning. In addition, my students respond to song. So each morning we sing our problem-solving song. When my students get frustrated with an academic task, we sing our song. This reminder helps them get past the roadblock and back to the learning. This is social emotional learning. This is growth mindset and self-efficacy. Self-management and social awareness are also a challenge for students with autism. They often struggle to understand the need and the feelings of others. Our SEL curriculum sets the stage, and we use real-life examples to reinforce the learning. This modeling and practice helps generalize these skills. When collaborating with parents about their child's needs through the SEL cadre, I have learned to focus on strengths, growth, and next steps as opposed to focusing on deficits. Doing this has benefited not only my relationship with parents, but their engagement in their child's education and emotional development.
SEL is not another curriculum or an additional task for teachers to add to their already overwhelming workload. But instead, SEL is something that, when embedded into already existing curriculum and daily tasks you engage in with your students, relieves your workload. The stronger the rapport a teacher establishes with their students, the less likely they are to see behavior management issues. The more you strengthen your student population's beliefs in themselves, the less likely they are to avoid attempting assignments that they may consider difficult. When growth is the focus rather than perfection, everyone breathes easier and feels safer. I like to think of SEL as community building through which we work to uplift everyone and celebrate all growth while recognizing that it occurs at different pace for everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Darlene Toscano Engebretson. I teach English at Grant High School. Need those skills to be able to, for example, collaborate to solve a real world problem, or perhaps so that these skills they will need to feel confident when they present ideas to a group of people, or that they can enter a discussion with confidence and respectfully so that they can listen to diverse ideas. They can explore new ways of thinking, and that this might, lead to a different way of thinking, a new idea, a new perspective, and help them explore how they see themselves and others in the world. What I want to say is that SEL really has the power to empower students inside and outside of the classroom. At the end of the day, SEL really is teaching students to have those skills, that they have healthy relationships with themselves and others, whether that's relationships at the workplace or in their personal lives. So SEL, in my opinion, is a powerful tool. What SEL does is just makes things a little bit more clear and transparent for us as teachers, so that students leave our classrooms knowing not just how to tackle the content in our classrooms, but how to tackle the content with confidence and with respect towards themselves and others.
Hi, my name is Maria Gonzalez, and I am a primary promise teacher here at Lake Street Elementary. SEL is something that I use in the classroom every single day. I work with a student population of 38, And these students are working so hard at their foundational literacy goals every day. It's a big challenge, and social emotional learning gives us the self-compassion, the connection to others, and the self-reflection that is needed for setting goals. Although I work with kindergarten and first grade students, I see from the SEL components that are embedded into my instruction, I can see how it motivates them, how it helps them grow, not only academically, but emotionally. And as a whole child, they're learning about themselves, they're learning about their community, and they are learning how to take their talents and manage their emotions. So, all of that is necessary for them to be successful academically. Despite the many challenges that we've been facing the last few years and the years to come, SEL is a very important part of my classroom instruction. Just as important as data, SEL is the balance and the joy in the classroom.
Hi, my name is Cleo Serdoncilio and I teach the second grade gifted magnet class at Braddock Drive Elementary School. All the online resources such as Harmony, Nearpod, Class Dojo Ideas, and Second Step are extremely helpful to teachers. They give us lessons on growth mindset, self awareness, self efficacy, and self management. SEL has made important impact on my students in terms of self-management strategies, especially in dealing with conflicts inside the classroom and on the yard during recess and lunch. Also, SEL lessons have taught my students how to develop a healthy growth mindset, to know that perseverance helps them achieve their goals and the very powerful word of yet. They might not know it yet, but if they persevere, they will get to their goals. Lastly, I have found that SEL is transforming both to teachers and to students. My hope is that SEL continue to be an integral part of our curriculum and instruction for many school years to come.
Hi, I'm Dr. Carvalho. I'm a ELD teacher at Dr. Maya Angelou Community High School here in local district central. I think social emotional learning is very important, especially for the demographic I work with, ELD newcomer students, because a lot of them come with trauma from their journeys here to the United States. And while the actual language instruction is important, it's difficult to complete that language instruction without ensuring that their emotional needs are also met. And I learned that a lot of ways you can accomplish this is through simple check ins, SEO activities, things that don't necessarily take away too much time from your instructional practices, but also assist you in reaching students and helping them be more open to the English instruction. Without discussing these social emotional needs of the students, it actually becomes very difficult to reach them instructionally. Overall, I learned that SEL instruction, particularly with these lessons, are important components of anyone's classroom.
Hi, I'm Erin Smale, 7th grade science and health teacher in Local District East. I'd like to talk about social emotional learning in the classroom. I've been implementing SEL skills and strategies in my science and health classroom all year, and I've noticed many positive impacts on my students. One thing I've noticed is that my students are empathetic. They're able to identify and respond appropriately to the feelings of others. Another thing I've noticed is that they're able to make that connection between their behavior and the decisions that they make. And overall, I've just noticed that my students are getting along better. They're able to work collaboratively. And really, I've seen less behavior issues in my classroom, which all leads to increased student learning. SEL is easy to implement in your classroom, and you're probably already doing that, probably already doing some of the strategies. Two strategies that I like to use are check ins and group roles. The check-ins allow my students to, before we start working, to check in and see where they are, see how they're feeling, and see if there's going to be any obstacles to them doing their work or learning for that day. And if there are those obstacles, we can use our strategies to overcome them. Establishing those group roles has really helped my students to know not only what their job and responsibilities are, but how they're going to contribute to that group work or that collaborative work. And just like anything, we need to provide our students with those opportunities to not only practice the strategies and skills, but also to reflect on them.
Hello, my name is Dr. Austin Ezenwa, a special education teacher at Norwood Street School. Social and emotional learning has positively impacted my classroom. I do have a span classroom of transition kindergarten, first and second grade levels. And then I integrated social emotional learning in the major content areas of mathematics, um, English language arts, social studies, and science. And one thing I do in the morning is as soon as the students walk in, I try to use the few phrases of Spanish that I've learned through the years just to greet them, and that creates a sense of connectedness. They really like that. As an immigrant myself, that I'm striving and making effort to learn some of their cultures, language, and traditions. So that's one way I have used the social emotional learning.
Hello, my name is Grace Nabar, and I teach at Latona Elementary, and I'm teaching third grade this year. What social emotional learning is just as important as any academic topics that we teach to our students. It allows for students to build a foundation of learning in a way where they're really learning how to be social and how to know how to deal with their emotions. As teachers, we are able to provide our students with the competencies of learning how to build emotionally stable students while working and persevering in their academics. We are able to give them the language that they can utilize when they come to a point where they lack the confidence, are unmotivated, upset, or displeased with the situation. That ability to be able to know what to do during that situation. This allows students to continue to find hope. A struggling point, the SLE competencies allow students to foster skills that they can utilize throughout their lifetime to become successful members of society. And as a teacher, I have been able to hear my students use that language by saying, oh, this is growth mindset, or I gotta believe in myself. I know I can do this, or even communicating with their peers in a time where they have met a difficult point or being upset with their struggles.
Hello, my name is Andrea Gonzalez and I am a third grade LAUSD teacher. I'm here to talk to you about the importance of SEL or social emotional learning. That SEL has had an impact on my students is when doing math. So I noticed that at the beginning of the school year, when my students saw a math problem that was a little bit challenging, they just wanted to give up and not try. And as we started going over some growth mindset skills and really talking about growth mindset and how it's important to keep trying, I noticed that my students were more willing to take on tasks that seemed a little bit hard for them. I believe that students need to practice these skills every day in order for them to become part of their everyday life. And that's why I think that SEL is very important and should be part of our everyday lessons and our everyday learning in the classroom.
My name is Carla Reyna, and I teach English at Orchard Academy's 2B. I joined the SEL cadre because I wanted to learn how I could better support my students deal with all the emotions they were facing once we returned into the classroom. I realized that my students had many needs, and I wanted to figure out a way that I could help them cope with their daily struggles. Through the SEL cadre, I learned that all of us naturally bring SEL strategies into our lessons. I learned that to intentionally embed social emotional learning into my daily lesson plans would elicit constructive conversations in which my students could identify and label and understand the emotions that they were feeling. In turn, we had amazing conversations, and together we are learning how to be better, how to do better, and how to understand what we're going through.
Hi, my name is Reagan. I want to tell you about a time where I had a fixed mindset and then it became a growth mindset. So when I first started gymnastics, I had a hard time doing cartwheels. Some of the kids in my class were really good at them. I remember telling myself that I can't do it, and my parents remind me that I should always try my best and never give up. Every day I would practice and tell myself I could do it, and I eventually became really good at cartwheels. So when something seems too hard, don't give up and keep trying until you reach your goal.
Don't get up. Don't get up and never get up. That's actually that's something like the opposite, the correct one. I always get back up. Can you see?
Now take a deep breath. And as you exhale, you see that you are in a long corridor with a beautiful mosaic floor of many, many colors. And this corridor is lit with many lanterns, all hanging on deep blue.
Or what phrase defines you and why?
What would define me is a good friend, because every time one of my friends is sad or angry, I try to cheer them up. I am hardworking because whenever there's a spelling test, I try to sound it out, and every time I did it right because practice makes